Most men talk too much and say nothing. You try to impress, try to entertain, try to win, without realizing that the harder you try, the more invisible you become. The truth? Women don't remember what made them laugh. They remember who made them feel understood, calm, respected. If you're tired of conversations that go nowhere, connections that fade, or feeling like you're always one sentence behind the kind of man you know you could be, then this is for you. Because attraction isn't about lines, it's about presence. And presence isn't loud, it's rooted, composed, intentional. Stoicism teaches one thing modern dating desperately needs. Don't chase approval. Embody value. When you speak from self-respect, not desperation, the energy shifts. She doesn't hear your words, she feels who you are. And when a man is calm, clear, and unmoved by outcome, he becomes unforgettable. This video isn't about tricks. It's about what to say when you're no longer performing. When you're showing up as a man who knows himself, respects others, and speaks with clarity, not pressure. The kind of man who doesn't need to convince anyone, but somehow, everyone listens. This is Victory Stoic, where we don't do hype, we do depth. If you value this kind of approach, like the video, share it with someone who's done pretending, and subscribe so you never miss what actually matters. In the comments, leave either your story or your command, something like, "I speak from value, not need," or "No more chasing, just choosing." Let's shift the way you speak, not to manipulate, but to reflect the self-control, purpose, and quiet confidence Stoicism was built for. What follows isn't a list of lines, it's a mindset, a standard, a reset of how you approach women, not as something to win, but someone to respect while standing firm in who you are. Let's get into it. Number 1, there's something about you I can't quite define, and I like that. It's subtle, but it hits deep. Not because it's clever, not because it's smooth, but because it speaks to something every woman wants to feel. Seen, not just looked at. Not for her beauty, her outfit, or the way she moves, but for the part of her even she can't always describe. You're not complimenting her body, you're acknowledging her energy, and that instantly separates you from 95% of men who only see surface. In psychology, this taps into what's called the desire for differentiated recognition, the human need to feel unique and unreplicable. According to research from Dr. Brené Brown, women consistently report higher emotional connection when they feel understood without needing to explain themselves. That's what this line does. It plants a question in her mind. What does he see in me that others missed? Now here's why this works so well. You're not trying to name it. You're not labeling her as sweet, hot, or interesting. You're intentionally vague, but sincere. And that space you leave invites curiosity. She wants to fill it. She wants to show you what makes her different. She starts to engage, not because you chased, but because you observed. Let's bring in a real example. Nathan, 39, from Chicago, used this exact approach without even planning it. He was having coffee with a woman he'd just met through mutual friends. She was attractive, sure, but he wasn't overly complimentary. He simply said, "You have a calm energy that makes this place feel quieter. I can't quite explain it, but it's there." She smiled, paused, then said, "That's the first time someone's ever said something like that to me." They ended up dating for over a year. The point isn't that the sentence is magic, it's that the attention behind it is rare. Most people talk to be heard. Stoic men observe before they speak. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." The modern twist? Most men imagine what to say to impress, when they should be paying attention long enough to say what's actually true. Here's the simple Stoic tactic you can practice at home. Train your perception. Next time you're out, grocery store, bar, bookstore, practice noticing people's energy, not their looks. Ask, what feels different about this person? Is it their tone, their posture, the way they slow down in conversation? Then describe it without making it about you. Don't say, "I feel." Say, "There's something about the way you that stands out." This shifts focus to her lived presence, not your emotional reaction. There's also neuroscience behind this. Compliments that are specific and emotionally grounded activate the brain's medial prefrontal cortex, the part involved in self-perception and social value. In contrast, generic compliments like, "You're so pretty," barely register. That's why vague yet pointed lines like, "There's something about you I like, and I can't quite define it," get remembered. They light up something more personal. They aren't flattery, they're resonance. Now here's what this isn't. It's not a setup to get her to say thank you or flirt back. If that's your motive, it'll fall flat. She'll feel it. Because women don't respond to words. They respond to the state you're in when you say them. If you're calm, grounded, unattached to outcome, the line lands. If you're needy, performative, or seeking approval, it doesn't matter what you say, it'll sound like noise. So what do you need in that moment? Presence, breath, self-respect, and patience. Say the line like it's a casual truth you just noticed, like you're not trying to impress her, you're simply sharing something real. No expectation, just clarity. That's what makes it powerful. That's what makes it stoic. You're not selling, you're not performing. You're offering an observation that came from paying attention, and that in itself is rare. Practice this in your everyday life. Notice people more, speak less, and when you do speak, say the thing that doesn't sound like a line, but lands like one. Because in a world of men trying too hard to be liked, the one who sees without chasing becomes unforgettable. Number 2, I'm not trying to win this conversation. Winning you wouldn't make me happy. I just want to understand you better. Most men argue to prove a point. They listen to reply, not to understand. And in doing so, they turn every conversation into a quiet competition. Who's right? Who's more clever? Who has the last word? But when you say this, calmly without ego, you break that cycle. You don't sound like every guy she's ever argued with. You sound like someone who isn't there to dominate her mind, but to meet her in it. This one sentence disarms ego. It makes her feel safe, and it does something deeper. It shifts the dynamic from defense to connection. You're not trying to win her, you're trying to understand her world, and that alone makes you different. The Stoics taught this long before modern psychology did. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You always own the option of having no opinion." There is never a need to turn this into something more. That's not passivity, that's restraint. The strongest man in the room is the one who doesn't need to defeat you to feel strong. He listens, he absorbs, he filters what matters, and lets the rest pass. Let's ground this in a real story. David, 43 from Texas, was dating a woman who had a tendency to become defensive in deep conversations. Instead of matching her energy, he tried something new. One night, during a mild disagreement about priorities in a relationship, he simply said, "I'm not trying to be right here. Winning doesn't help either of us. I just want to understand what this means for you." Her whole posture shifted. Shoulders relaxed, voice softened. The fight ended because the game ended. That's the power of emotional clarity. Not every moment needs a comeback. Not every silence needs to be filled. Sometimes your greatest attraction comes from your ability to stay calm when others expect tension. This also ties to a psychological principle known as nonviolent communication, coined by Marshall Rosenberg. The goal isn't to persuade, it's to connect. And connection can only happen when both people feel seen, not judged. When you remove the need to win, you make space for her truth. And women remember that. You want a line to practice? Try this. This isn't about right or wrong. I just want to hear how you see it, even if it's not how I see it. Say it slowly, say it sincerely, and mean it. She'll feel the difference. Here's a Stoic metaphor for this. Imagine a fire. You can feed it with wood, or you can let it burn itself out naturally. A wise man knows which moments to fuel and which to let cool. Most men throw logs at every disagreement. A Stoic lets silence do the work and speaks when clarity rises. Now, how do you practice this? At home, pick a topic where you usually get reactive. Politics, family, your work dynamic. Next time someone says something that stirs you, pause, count to 3. Then ask, why do you feel that way? Just that. Watch how it opens the room, then apply it in dating. Next time she says something that challenges you, don't defend, don't posture. Say, I hear you. I might not agree, but I want to understand how you got there. That earns more respect than any witty comeback ever could. Stoicism teaches, hold your center. Don't fight for dominance. Speak to understand. Lead with presence, not persuasion. When you do that, she doesn't just want to talk to you, she wants to open up to you. And that's where real connection begins. Number 3, that's what I like most about you. Simple, direct, but only powerful if it's earned. When you say this, it shouldn't come after a generic compliment. It comes after a pause, After you've observed something specific, something real, not her looks, not her laugh, but the small, precise way she does something that most people wouldn't even notice. That's the difference between charm and connection. Most men throw compliments like darts in the dark. A Stoic observes in silence, then speaks with precision. And that precision? That's what makes a woman stop and think, wait, you actually saw that? Psychology backs this up. According to a study by Harvard psychologist Dr. Zick Rubin, people feel significantly more emotionally bonded when they're acknowledged for personal traits, not appearance. Compliments tied to behavior, energy, or mindset create deeper resonance because they affirm identity, not surface. So when you say, that's what I like most about you, it needs to follow something true. Something like, 1. The way you stop mid-sentence when you're thinking hard, that's what I like most about you. 2. You're patient when most people would rush. That's rare. That's what I like most about you. 3. You actually listen without trying to fix everything. That's what I like most about you. Not only does this make her feel seen, it makes her want to show up even more authentically. You're rewarding presence, not performance, and that builds trust. Let's ground it in a real story. Adam, 36, from Portland, was on a second date. They were talking about books, and she casually mentioned how she always rereads the last page of a novel before deciding if she really liked it. Most people would have smiled and moved on. He didn't. He paused and said, "That tells me a lot about you. You want to know how things feel when they end, not just how exciting they are in the middle. That's probably what I like most about you so far." She went silent for a second, smiled, then said, "That's surprisingly accurate." What happened there wasn't magic. It was attentiveness in action. Marcus Aurelius said, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." In dating, that way of thinking is seeing what others miss and saying it out loud. Want to practice this? Step 1. Stop giving $5 compliments. No more, "You're so smart" or "You're so fun." Pay attention to the how, not just the what. How does she explain things? How does she handle small frustrations? How does she shift when the conversation gets serious? Step 2. Name it. Briefly, clearly, from a grounded place. Say, "That thing you just did? I noticed it. And honestly, I think it says a lot about you. That's what I like most." Step 3. Don't make it about getting a reaction. A Stoic man doesn't speak to impress. He speaks to connect. Whether she blushes, shrugs, or says nothing, you've already done what most men never do. You saw her. Here's a metaphor. Most men see the picture. You see the brushstrokes. And when you say, "That one detail, that's what I like most about you," she realizes you're not watching the same movie everyone else is. You're watching her. This isn't about saying more. It's about seeing more and letting her feel it. That's what makes your presence linger long after the conversation ends. That's what makes you impossible to forget. Number 4. I'm not great with sweet words, but if you need someone who keeps his word, I'm here. This line doesn't sparkle, it doesn't rhyme, it doesn't flatter. That's exactly why it works, because in a world full of noise, this is quiet strength. It's not said to impress, it's said to set a tone, to let her know from the start, "I'm not going to charm you. I'm going to show up for you." And make no mistake, this is not a weakness, it's a flex. The kind of flex Stoic men make. No performance, no fluff, just a clear, unshakable presence. Philosopher Musonius Rufus, a Roman Stoic teacher, once said, "A good man will not only avoid wrongdoing, but he will also be trustworthy in word and action." What he says, he does. That's the spirit behind this line. You're not offering a fantasy. You're offering something far rarer, consistency. Most women don't want perfect words. They want reliability, emotional stability, a man who means what he says and says what he means. And this line sends a quiet but strong message. You can count on me. Not because I'm smooth, but because I'm steady. Let's look at a real-life story. Chris, 40, from North Carolina, used to try hard to be charismatic on dates. Stories, humor, compliments. He got attention, but nothing stuck. One day on a coffee date, after the woman joked that he wasn't the flirty type, he smiled and replied, "Nope, but I don't disappear either." She laughed, then paused. That line hit different. 2 years later, they're living together. She still says that was the moment she started taking him seriously. Because the truth is, most women have met plenty of men who talked big, promised more, and vanished faster than they arrived. So when you calmly say, "I'm not a talker, but I'm a doer," you trigger something deeper. Safety, trust, depth. That's the kind of attraction that doesn't burn out in 2 weeks. Want to practice this mindset? Start by cutting back on any tendency to oversell. Stop trying to be impressive. Start being consistent. Show up when you say you will. Respond when you say you will. Keep your tone even. Your promise is small, but unbreakable. Let your actions be the charisma. Then, say this line only once and mean it. Say it when the moment's right, not as a pitch, but as a quiet standard. Something like, "I don't have a lot of fancy words, but if you want someone real, someone who doesn't disappear, I'm that guy." You're not trying to win. You're anchoring yourself. You're offering gravity in a world of performance. Think of this like being a lighthouse. You don't move. You don't chase. You shine. You stand. The ships either find you or they don't. But your light doesn't flicker because of who's looking. So the next time you feel the pressure to say something smooth, stop, breathe, then speak from your center. And if what comes out is simple, grounded, and real, you've already said more than most ever will. Because in the end, women don't remember the prettiest words. They remember the man who said little, but meant every damn word. Number 5. If you're looking for a relationship where we lift each other up, we're on the same path. There's no pressure in this line. No chase, no performance, just clarity. You're not saying choose me, you're saying this is where I'm headed. Feel free to walk beside me if it speaks to you. And that's the kind of energy that pulls people in without force. Because the most attractive men don't promise the world. They reveal their direction and invite you to meet them there. This isn't a boast, it's a filter. A declaration of intent, not need. In relationships, too many men either fall into one of two traps: over-pursuing or pretending not to care. Both are reactions to fear. But this line, it comes from wholeness, from a man who isn't looking for someone to complete him, but for someone who wants to build something solid together. There's stoicism in that. Epictetus said, "The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best." That's not just friendship advice, that's partnership strategy. If the person beside you isn't helping you grow, then what are you actually building? Real example, Evan, 38 from Seattle, was done with shallow connections. On a third date, the woman asked what he was looking for. He said this line exactly, calmly, directly. "If you're looking for a relationship where we lift each other up, we're on the same path." Her response? Silence, followed by, "That's probably the most mature thing anyone said to me in years." Because here's the secret. Most women aren't turned off by standards. They're starving for them. For men who know what they want, not in a controlling way, but in a grounded, intentional way. This line also shifts focus from me or you to we. It's not, "I'll fix you" or "you complete me." It's mutual growth. That language, spoken from calm, signals strength, not need. Want to practice this mindset? Start with your own direction. Ask yourself, what does an uplifting relationship look like for me? Not just emotionally, but practically. Does it mean better communication, shared routines, spiritual alignment, career support? Write it out. Get clear. Then when you're on a date, don't pitch it, live it. Show up with calm energy, listen well, speak slowly, say what matters, not what impresses. And if the moment feels right, drop the line. If you're looking for a relationship where we lift each other up, we're on the same path. It'll either resonate or it won't. And that's the beauty of it. Because you're not trying to win her over, you're trying to see if she's already walking in your direction. And when a woman hears a man speak from vision, not validation, she doesn't just respect him. She remembers him. Number 6, I'm not sure you can handle me. It's playful, but not cocky. Teasing, but not arrogant. Said right. It adds just the right dose of mystery, challenge, and charisma. You're not saying you're too much. You're saying, there's more to me than you think, and I don't unfold for just anyone. This isn't about being over the top. It's about breaking the pattern. Most guys are too eager, too agreeable, too available. They lean in fast, hoping to be chosen. But when you say this, calmly, with a half smile like it's half joke, half truth, you flip the energy. You become the one she's curious about. You become the discovery. But here's the key. It only works if there's substance behind the tease. You can't say, "I'm not sure you can handle me," and then be a predictable, oversharing people pleaser 5 minutes later. If you say it, you have to own it through presence, restraint, self-possession. This taps directly into what psychology calls the pratfall effect. People are more attractive when they show competence with just a hint of vulnerability or unpredictability. You're signaling that you're not a blank slate. You have edges, layers, standards, and not everyone gets access to all of it. Let's look at a real moment. Jonah, 34 from Denver, was on a first date. Things were going smoothly, laughs, wine, conversation. The woman said, half flirting, "You're surprisingly grounded for someone so sharp." He smiled and said, "Careful, I'm not sure you're ready to handle all of it yet." Her eyes narrowed, amused. "Oh, really? Try me." What followed wasn't performance, it was a shift. He stayed calm, asked deeper questions, listened more than he spoke. She leaned in, not because he tried to impress, but because he stopped trying. That's the Stoic move, centered, not cold, playful, but composed. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." And this line is brave in its own way. It says, I know what I bring, and I don't need to advertise it loudly to be heard. How do you practice this? First, embody it. Don't say this if you haven't done the internal work to back it up. If you're emotionally reactive, over-apologetic, or unsure of yourself, no line will save you. But if you've cultivated self-awareness, emotional discipline, and presence, you're ready. Second, use this line in the right tone. Slightly playful, slightly serious. You're inviting curiosity, not building a wall. You might say, "You seem like you've got things figured out. I like that, but I'm not sure you can handle all of me." Or, "You'd probably enjoy the first few chapters. I'm just not sure you're ready for the whole book." Don't force it. Let it land and change the rhythm of the conversation. Third, follow it with curiosity, not control. Don't make it a dare. Make it an energy. Let her lean in. Let her decide how deep she wants to go. The real strength is in not needing to be chased or understood instantly. Because here's the truth. Women don't want predictable. They want someone who makes them feel something new. Someone who isn't trying to be liked, but who's completely okay being respected first and loved later. When you say, "I'm not sure you can handle me," you're not playing games. You're letting her know the game's over, and this is something real. Number 7, you don't have to agree with me, but if you're honest, I'll listen all the way through. This isn't just a line, it's a door. When you say this, you're not trying to control the outcome of the conversation. You're giving her something most men don't. Permission to be fully herself, even if that means disagreeing with you. And in that one moment, you stop being someone she has to impress or protect herself from, and you become someone she can be real with. That's powerful. Because here's the quiet truth about most interactions. People don't say what they truly feel. They say what's acceptable, what won't scare the other person off, what keeps things pleasant. But pleasant isn't connection. Honesty is, even if it's messy, especially when it's not wrapped in agreement. This line doesn't make you weak, it makes you safe, not in a soft, people-pleasing way, but in the way Stoic men are safe, grounded, composed, and strong enough to hold space for things they don't control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them knows anything about the subject." In other words, you don't need agreement, you need truth. You need a real person in front of you, not a mirror of yourself. This line does two things at once. First, it shows her that you're confident enough not to be threatened by different opinions. Second, it challenges her to bring her real voice into the conversation, not just the version she thinks you want. Let's anchor it with a real example. Ryan, 41, from Boston, was in a heated discussion on a third date. The topic, long-distance relationships. She said she didn't believe they worked. He had a different view. Instead of debating, he looked at her and said, "You don't have to agree with me, but if you're honest, I'll listen all the way through." She exhaled visibly. "No one's ever said that to me," she replied. "They usually just try to change my mind." That night became a turning point, not because they agreed, but because they understood. Here's the psychological layer. Emotional safety leads to emotional openness. According to Dr. John Gottman's research on relationship stability, couples who allow disagreement while staying curious and emotionally present build more trust, not less. You don't need to win to connect. You just need to make the other person feel like their truth won't be punished. So how do you embody this? First, control your face, your tone, your body language. When someone says something you disagree with, don't flinch, don't correct, don't interrupt, just pause, nod, say, "Tell me more." Second, practice micro-validations. When she shares a vulnerable opinion, even if it's wildly different from yours, respond with, "I get why you feel that way. You don't have to agree, but you do have to be present." Third, mean what you say. Don't use this line to sound evolved. Use it because you truly want to see who she is, not who she becomes when she's trying to keep the peace. When you say, "You don't have to agree with me, but if you're honest, I'll listen all the way through," you're not giving up control, you're giving space. And space is where real connection grows. Most men want to be right. Few men know how to be steady. But the rare man, the Stoic, knows it's not agreement that builds attraction. It's honesty held without judgment. That's what she'll remember. That's what brings her back. Not because you mirrored her, but because you could hold your ground while letting her stand in hers. Number 8. I've loved the wrong way before, so I'm not in a rush. But if it's the right person, I don't hesitate. This line walks with quiet strength. You're not hiding the fact that you've been hurt, you're owning it. And in that ownership, you're showing her something deeper than charm, emotional maturity. You're saying, yes, I've made mistakes. Yes, I've felt pain. But no, it doesn't define me. And no, it doesn't make me afraid of love. It just makes me more intentional with it. Most men try to act untouched, unbothered, like nothing ever shook them. But here's the truth. What attracts isn't perfection, it's clarity after the storm. When you say this, you're telling her, I've been through enough to know what matters. I'm not chasing, I'm not avoiding, I'm choosing, deliberately. Stoic philosophy aligns with this mindset. Epictetus wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it, that matters." That includes heartbreak. That includes the moments where you gave your heart to someone who didn't deserve it. A Stoic man doesn't deny the past, he uses it to sharpen his future. This line also invites trust, because it shows you're not making decisions from fear. You're making them from experience plus self-respect. That combination, it's magnetic. Let's ground this in a real story. Elijah, 39, from Minneapolis, had been divorced for 2 years. When he started dating again, he noticed how many people either avoided talking about their past or overshared it in a bitter, unresolved way. So he decided to lead with calm honesty. On a date, when the woman asked why he'd been single for a while, he simply said, "I've loved the wrong way before, so I'm not rushing anything now. But if the right person shows up, I won't miss it." Her response? A long silence. Then, "That's probably the healthiest thing I've heard from a man in years." It's not just what he said, it's the space it created. A woman hears this and knows, this man won't run at the first sign of intimacy, but he also won't tolerate half-love or emotional shortcuts. There's also a psychological edge. According to Dr. Brené Brown, vulnerability backed by boundaries creates the strongest kind of connection. You're not bleeding on the table. You're saying, "I've been wounded, I healed, and I know what my heart deserves now." That's not weakness. That's refined strength. Want to practice this energy? Start by writing down one lesson you've learned from your past relationships. Not as a story of victimhood, but as a filter you now carry. Then embody it. Don't let pain make you cold. Let it make you precise. Watch how it changes the way you carry yourself. Then, when the moment comes, when she asks about your past, or where you stand now, say the line, "I've loved the wrong way before, so I'm not in a rush. But if it's right, I don't hesitate." Say it softly. Mean it completely. No need to explain further. Let the silence after it speak louder than the sentence itself. Because when a man says this from truth, he isn't just attracting love, he's showing he knows how to protect it once it arrives. And that's the kind of man she can trust, not just with her body, but with her story. Number 9, you don't have to try so hard. I'm not here to judge. It lands like a breath of relief. Like someone just opened a window in a room that's been too tense for too long. Because whether she admits it or not, she walked into that room wondering if she looked enough. Maybe her lipstick smudged. Maybe her dress has a wrinkle she can't unsee. Maybe her hair fell flat halfway through the day. She's checking herself in mirrors, adjusting her voice, filtering her thoughts, not because she's fake, but because she's been conditioned to expect judgment, comparison, evaluation. And then you say this: calm, real, no smirk, no sarcasm, just presence. And the moment you do, the walls start to drop. This isn't a compliment, it's a signal. You're telling her, you don't have to perform for me. I'm not watching you like a critic. I'm meeting you like a person. In Stoic terms, it's emotional non-attachment, not to her appearance, not to your expectations, not to a perfect moment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." You're receiving her presence as it is, not dressed in idealism, not filtered through standards she never agreed to. That's rare. Let's bring it to life with a real moment. Jordan, 37, from New York, was on a casual coffee date. She showed up flustered, late, apologetic, her mascara slightly smudged from rushing. She sat down and immediately said, "Sorry, I probably look a mess today." Without missing a beat, Jordan looked at her and said, "You don't have to try so hard. I'm not here to judge." She froze for a second, then smiled, for real this time. "Thank you. I needed that." Because deep down, everyone's tired of being measured. And most men, without realizing it, reinforce that pressure by complimenting the surface but ignoring the weight underneath. This line cuts through all that. It tells her, you're safe here, not because you look perfect, but because you don't have to. There's a powerful psychological layer too. According to Dr. Carl Rogers, one of the founding figures of humanistic psychology, unconditional positive regard is one of the most healing forces in human connection. When someone feels accepted without precondition or performance, they relax into authenticity. And from that place, real connection begins. Want to integrate this in real life? First, stop complimenting what's obvious. Everyone notices a nice dress. Not everyone notices effort or fatigue or quiet resilience. See beyond the polish. Second, use this line only when it's true. Don't say it to sound woke. Say it because you actually mean you don't need to be anything other than what you are right now. Here's how it might look in practice. She apologizes for not dressing up. "You're fine. You don't have to try so hard. I'm not here to judge." She fidgets with her hair mid-convo. Smile, pause, and say, "It's okay. You're good. I'm just glad we're talking." Keep your tone light. Keep your eyes soft. Let the moment breathe. Because what you're really doing is creating space. Space where she can stop adjusting and start existing. Where she can stop managing impressions and start enjoying presence. And the man who can offer that, he's not just attractive, he's unforgettable. Conclusion: you don't need the perfect line, you need the right state of mind. The most powerful words don't come from memorizing clever phrases. They come from presence, from stillness, from a man who knows who he is, what he values, and what kind of connection he's willing to allow in his life. The reason these sentences work, when they're said right, is because they come from a place of self-respect, not performance. You're not trying to be liked. You're not trying to convince her. You're simply offering the truth of who you are, calmly and clearly, and letting the rest take care of itself. That's Stoicism applied to connection. Epictetus said, "Only the educated are free." In dating, that means emotional education. It means not being enslaved by the need for approval, by the hunger for attention, or by the fear of silence. It means you are enough before the first word is spoken. So, say less, mean more. Stop trying to be impressive, and start being impossible to ignore, by being the one man in the room who isn't chasing a reaction, but standing firm in his values. In a world where most people speak to be heard, speak to connect. In a culture obsessed with validation, become the man who listens first, then responds from principle. And remember this, real attraction doesn't begin when she's impressed. It begins when she feels safe to be real in front of you. That safety comes from your presence. That presence comes from your discipline. That discipline, that's what Stoicism gave you. If this video resonated, like it. Share it with someone who's tired of cheap advice and ready to build real presence. Subscribe to Victory Stoic to stay grounded in what actually makes a man powerful. And in the comments, drop either a command or a truth from your own story. Something like, "I lead with presence, not performance." Or the right connection doesn't need chasing, it needs clarity. Thank you for watching, and more than that, thank you for showing up as the kind of person who's not just looking for tips, but looking to become unshakable. We'll see you in the next one.